Yeah, this is not what this protest is about. So stop.
Oh, here we go. It looks like glass projectiles are being thrown at the police. Okay, we gotta go.
Yeah, don't forget the rubber. Watch your stick!
Protesters, this is an unlawful assembly. You must I got hit.
That's not what America is, and we refuse to stand for.
There's a lot more of us than there are of them. Hillary won the popular vote. Love does trump hate. We need to continue this fight, you guys, please.
In cities across the country, thousands took to the streets to voice their outrage over the election of Donald Trump.
The people united. We saw crowds actually being disruptive. And
on the West Coast, protesters set fires and faced off with police. In Los Angeles, hundreds ran onto Interstate 101, temporarily shutting it down.
That's total gridlock on the 101.
More than a dozen people were arrested there.
Trump has tapped into something very deep and dark and evil in our country, and now we're all going to pay.
Up to 10,000 people packed the streets of Midtown Manhattan, holding anti-Trump signs and blocking traffic. About 65 people were arrested near Trump Tower, mostly for disorderly conduct. And while there were some calls for unity,
I think we have a new president and we should all unify and rally around President Trump.
They were drowned out by frustration and fury.
He's a racist, homophobic, xenophobic nightmare, misogynist nightmare, and he doesn't represent the values that I know to be American values.
If he actually cared about us, he would be bringing us all together.
Not my president!
Chants of "Not my president" stretched from Kansas City to Seattle. Thousands gathered outside Chicago's Trump Tower, where demonstrators shut down streets.
He is dividing us. He is dividing minorities. He is dividing women. He's dividing gays. He is dividing the very social fabric of this world.
In New Orleans, they burned a doll in Trump's image.
I am what some people would call a conservative. We cannot give up the United States of America for Donald Trump.
In response, Donald Trump tweeted last night, just had a very open and successful presidential election. Now, professional protesters incited by the media are protesting. Very unfair. But his tone changed a bit this morning. Trump tweeted this, and I quote, "Love the fact that the small groups of protesters last night have passion for our great country. We will all come together and be proud." Brent Weisberg of our affiliate Coin TV is in Portland now, where there is a lot of damage this morning. Brent, good morning to you.
Good morning. Police here in Portland, Oregon have arrested more than 24 people. Nearly 4,000 were voicing their anger over the newly elected president, and what started off peacefully quickly turned chaotic.
Overnight, violence erupted on the streets of Portland. During the second straight day of protests, I got hit over the election of Donald Trump. Police in riot gear launched flashbangs and fired rubber bullets to try to break up the crowd of roughly 1,500 people. Officers declaring the demonstration a riot after several people began vandalizing cars and businesses in the city's Pearl District. Some protesters launched fireworks and other projectiles at police.
I threw a trash can at them because I'm angry.
Will you go home?
No. No, I will not go home.
At one point, a man brandishing a gun demanded the protesters move away.
I live here. Don't look me. I didn't vote for Trump. Why are you coming at me?
There were reports of attacks on drivers. Cell phone video shows a woman throwing detergent on protesters after she left her car. What started out as a peaceful protest descended into chaos.
We are here for love. We are not here to spread hate.
There are expectations that the protesters will be out once again today. We are still waiting to learn on how many officers, if any, were injured.
Yes, I am.
16 years ago, the American cartoon series The Simpsons predicted what has today become reality, a Donald Trump presidency. In the episode, Lisa Simpson takes over from Trump, inheriting a huge hole in the budget.
Country is broke. How can that be?
Seen as an absurd joke at the time, the cartoon's producer, James L. Brooks, spoke of his disillusionment.
You know, shocked, scared stiff, worried about the country.
What's your biggest concern now?
Well, my biggest concern is that he meant what he said while he was running. That's my biggest concern.
Trump has featured in The Simpsons several times and was mocked in another episode of the satirical cartoon last year after he announced he was running for president.
The Democratic Party faces an uncertain future this morning. Hillary Clinton called for national unity yesterday during her emotional concession speech, but her party faces a reckoning now. The Democrats are out of power in Washington. Nancy Cordes looks at how party leaders see the way forward. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. Democrats are grappling with how to approach Trump. They believe he ran a bigoted, divisive campaign, but they know that voters clearly saw something different. And the reality is that Democrats don't control Congress, so they can't do anything without him. That's why Clinton tried to strike a conciliatory note in her concession speech.
Clinton took the stage amid a sea of tears. Staffers, donors, volunteers who never saw this loss coming.
I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share and the vision we hold for our country.
Clinton urged women supporters who had longed for a female president not to get discouraged.
To all the little girls who are watching this, never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance and opportunity in the world.
She said she wants Trump to succeed, but pointedly warned him of the constitutional constraints he will inherit.
The rule of law, the principle that we are all equal in rights and dignity, freedom of worship and expression.
Her primary opponent, Bernie Sanders, was even blunter. To the degree that Trump pursues racist, sexist, xenophobic, and anti-environment policies, Sanders wrote, we will vigorously oppose him. But there was also an olive branch. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi vowed to work with Trump on a robust infrastructure jobs bill. Senator Elizabeth Warren, one of Trump's toughest critics, offered to put aside our differences and work together to rebuild the economy for working people.
Now there's a new transition going on.
At a dinner last night, Vice President Joe Biden assured Jewish leaders that the president-elect will defend Israel.
There's going to be disagreements tactically, but never on the basic fundamental commitment.
Well, I feel like I did when the World Trade Center was attacked. I'm waiting to see. You know, I'm stunned, but we're gonna see. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll see what happens. This was about world order, doing things that trying to work our way through a lot of problems internationally and domestically, and you need a grown-up for that. And we're going to see, though. That's all I say again, is we'll see. You're there. We're all waiting, but we're watching.
Israel's right wing very much celebrated a Trump victory, and almost immediately after the election results came in, called on President-elect Donald Trump to move the American embassy to Israel from where it is now in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That would effectively be the United States recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. That would buck the United Nations and decades of U.S. policy when it comes to Jerusalem, but that was a campaign promise of Donald Trump, and it's now those right-wing leaders, including the Jerusalem mayor and Israel's right-wing justice minister, who called on Donald Trump to make good on that promise. Meanwhile, the education minister congratulated Trump and also said the era of a Palestinian state is over. Meanwhile, it was Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu who gave a much more measured, much more down-the-middle message. Here is what he had to say.
President-elect Trump, my friend, congratulations on being elected President of the United States of America. You are a great friend of Israel. Over the years, you've expressed your support consistently, and I deeply appreciate it. I look forward to working with you to advance security, prosperity, and peace. Israel is grateful for the broad support it enjoys among the American people, and I'm confident that the two of us, working closely together, will bring the great alliance between our two countries to even greater heights.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average has closed at a record high. Donald Trump's victory in the US presidential election had been expected to rattle investors. However, after a volatile opening, the Dow began climbing on Wednesday in response to Trump's conciliatory tone. It was fueled by big gains in components like construction, banking and pharmaceuticals. The index rose 218 points, or 1.18% by the close of trade. It ended Thursday's session at 18,807.
Chaos in the Chilean Congress was followed by the forcible ejection of a number of public sector workers. They went to the lower house to protest against changes to public sector salaries which were being voted on in the chamber. The leader of the National Association of Fiscal Employees has urged workers to strike until the next move has been determined.
After Donald Trump's surprising victory, many Muslim Americans are aware of the threat of increased Islamophobia. One incident in New York is very telling. Fariha Nissam, a Muslim student, rode on the Q43 bus Thursday morning. A white couple had boarded the bus near the Springfield border and began to try to take her headscarf from her. The pair walked in her direction, and the woman gestured toward her hijab. Nizam told CBS News, "She started telling me to take it off and that I'm not allowed to wear it anymore. She came towards me and tried to pull it off." Other Muslim women have reported hostile encounters and harassment this week.
A civil rights group in the US says it's monitoring reports of several incidents targeting Muslims since Donald Trump's victory on Tuesday. Activists are urging the president-elect to denounce the attacks. The Council on American Islamic Relations is also reporting breakouts of racist graffiti and the bullying of immigrant children. Trump's team has so far made no comment. During the campaign, the property billionaire called for a ban on Muslims entering the country for security reasons. He's made calls for unity since the victory. Reports of attacks come as demonstrators across the country protest against Trump's victory. They've blasted his campaign rhetoric about immigrants, Muslims and women.
Look at this.
In one school, the children shouted, "Build the wall," in front of their Hispanic classmates. They are referring reportedly to Trump's plan to close the US border with Mexico.
But not everyone in Europe's ready to accept the rising populist parties. The BBC is being accused of providing a platform for fascists because it's invited Marine Le Pen for an interview this coming Sunday. The broadcaster is, in fact, having to defend its decision, as Anastasia Churkina found out.
We're seeing a quite unusual situation where we're seeing this major mainstream news channel in the UK, the BBC, having to explain themselves in terms of the choices they're now making with their interviewees. This comes following the BBC's announcement that they plan to interview France's Front National leader Marine Le Pen. And this, of course, followed backlash on Twitter, on social media. We saw the senior reporter for BuzzFeed send out a tweet that prompted this self-explanation from the BBC. The tweet said, 2016, the year fascism became so normalized, it gets invited onto breakfast TV. And then, instead of potentially just letting this go, we saw the BBC respond with as many as 7 very detailed tweets about their choice to interview Le Pen. Specifically, they said the shocks of the Brexit referendum and this latest Trump election make her victory a possibility.
Unless a politician is irrelevant or expresses views that are illegal, it's our job to hold them to account and allow viewers to understand what they think. Our views about them are irrelevant. If you're unhappy about Marine Le Pen's electoral success, fair enough. But that success and Trump's shock win justify this interview.
So it's really curious to see these developments while we're watching how the mainstream media is going to exactly adjust themselves to these new realities. But we do see the BBC really caught in a situation where they have to explain why they choose to interview a politician that is in fact quite popular here in France.
Adam Gary from the news website theduran.com told me the BBC's got nothing to apologise for here.
It's all well and good for these mainstream media hangers-on in the West to call everyone a fascist who they don't like. I think that they're scared. They're scared of losing ratings, and more importantly, they were once the people who controlled the crux of power, and now they find themselves in the opposition. They don't know how to handle being the opposition, so they're trying to clutch at straws and invite any leader they think represents the movement. I think it's going to be an unfair interview. I think they're going to use it to paint Donald Trump supporters as something they're not. But I think that it's totally fair that they can interview who they want. She's not a criminal. She's not a fascist. She is what she is.
And elsewhere in Vietnam, where local media say the country is scrapping plans to build 2 nuclear power plants over soaring costs and mounting safety concerns. The plants were slated to have a capacity of 4,000 megawatts and were being developed with assistance from a Japanese consortium. However, the proposed costs for both plants have doubled since 2011's Fukushima nuclear disaster. Japanese media report if the project is shelved, it will be a major blow to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's nuclear power exporting strategy.
The Taliban says it carried out a suicide bomb attack last night on the German consulate in Afghanistan. At least 4 civilians were killed and scores more hurt when a car packed with explosives rammed into a wall surrounding the compound in the northern city of Mazar-e-Sharif. Heavily armed attackers followed up the blast, battling with Afghan and German security forces late into the night. The German embassy says all Germans at the site were rescued unharmed. A Taliban spokesman said the attack was in response to NATO airstrikes against suspected militants last week in the city of Kunduz, in which dozens of Afghan civilians were killed. The strikes were called in after US and local troops came under heavy fire during an operation in which 2 American service members also died.
Scores of migrants set out on the long walk from Belgrade to the border with Croatia. They're demanding the EU open its doors to them. Thousands have been trapped in Serbia for months after the Balkan country's EU neighbours beefed up border controls to keep migrants away.
There's a big problem for us in the Serbia and for refugees, and we want to go to Croatia border, and it will be a very humble request of us to open the border of Croatia, and we will go by walk there from Belgrade city to Croatia border.
Hundreds of men have been camping out in parks or abandoned warehouses in Belgrade. Their plight has recently worsened. Human rights groups have been told to stop food deliveries outside migrant centres in a bid to move them off the streets.